Welcome back to the Third Brain Channel. Sit back, relax for a few minutes. Let's make the world a better place, one video at a time. You know, I recently came across this story about a farmhand who was able to just sleep right through a huge thunderstorm.
Oh, wow.
And his boss, the farmer, was up all night, pacing, worrying, checking
God.
everything, double checking, triple checking.
Yeah.
But the farmhand, he just slept.
Interesting contrast.
Yeah, and it really stuck with me, that image. It made me think, like, is this guy some kind of, Zen master? Has he just, like, totally mastered um, detachment?
Right.
But when I looked into the story a little bit more, I realized it wasn't really about ignoring the storm at all.
Okay.
It was about something much more practical and, I think, achievable for anyone, really.
So there's like a method to the madness.
Totally, yeah. So
Yeah.
the farmhand, he had spent the whole day before the storm meticulously preparing.
Oh, okay.
He got the barn ready. He brought the animals in. He reinforced anything that could have blown away. Basically, like, took all the precautions, right?
Yeah.
So when the storm hit, he knew that he had done everything he could, everything humanly possible to protect the farm
He was ready.
so he could rest easy,
Yeah.
knowing that he had taken responsibility.
That's fascinating. It wasn't about ignoring the problem, but confronting it, taking control.
Yeah,
That's a powerful lesson, I think.
I think so too, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about facing those metaphorical storms that we all have in our lives with a sense of calm confidence
Right.
because we've laid the groundwork.
Right.
And that's what we're going to be looking at in this deep dive.
Okay.
We're going to unpack this whole story of the farmhand and see what we can take away from it to help us weather our own storms.
Right.
Whether it's work deadlines, family stuff, or even just, the daily chaos of life.
Yeah. Like
Think
this.
of it as building our own storm-proof foundation.
Okay, so where do we even begin?
Well, I think the first takeaway is, it's staring us right in the face, is that proactive preparation is key.
Yeah.
The farmhand, he wasn't just lucky to sleep through the storm. He was prepared. He didn't wait for the first clap of thunder to start running around.
Okay.
He was intentional, methodical.
I think we've all had those moments where we feel that pressure mounting because we didn't take action early enough.
Totally.
It's almost like we're wired to react instead of prepare.
Yeah, and the thing is, this preparation, it doesn't have to be some big elaborate scheme or anything.
Right.
It's about breaking things down into smaller steps.
Yeah.
And our source material also talks about this, highlighting things like planning, organizing, just building good habits.
What I find interesting is how the source emphasizes the small, consistent actions.
Yeah.
It's not about pulling all-nighters before a presentation. It's about creating outlines in advance or decluttering your workspace or even just sticking to a consistent sleep schedule. Those might seem insignificant, but they make a world of difference.
Yeah, it's like building up those muscles of preparedness.
Exactly.
So the more we practice, the more equipped we are to handle the bigger challenges when they come up.
You're cultivating that sense of agency, that control over your life.
Yeah.
That's what the farmhand embodies, right?
Absolutely. But, I'm curious. Even with all this preparation, there are times when we're already in the thick of it. We're facing that deadline or that difficult conversation, that unexpected expense.
Sure.
What happens then? Does the farmhand just shrug and say, well, I'm prepared, so nothing else matters?
Right. Well, that's where the second takeaway comes in, and it's a bit more nuanced.
Right.
It's about focusing on what's important, not just what's urgent.
Okay.
The farmhand, even in the storm, he was likely able to distinguish between the essential tasks to protect the farm and the things that could wait.
I see what you're saying. It's easy to get caught up in that whirlwind of urgency, answering every email as soon as it comes in,
Yeah.
constantly putting out fires, running around like crazy.
Right.
But are we actually achieving anything meaningful? Are we neglecting our well-being, our long-term goals, our ability to say no?
It's like we're so busy being busy that we lose sight of what truly matters.
Right.
I find myself asking this question a lot. Like, are we living our lives or just reacting to them?
Yeah, yeah. And the farmhand, he seemed to have found that balance.
He did.
The story doesn't give us a step-by-step guide, but there are definitely clues.
Yeah.
He focused on the essentials, the things that truly mattered for the farm's survival.
I think there's a powerful lesson there for us.
Yeah.
It's about being intentional with our choices.
Okay.
Maybe it's scheduling those annual checkups even when you feel fine, or finally outlining your career aspirations instead of just daydreaming about them, or having the courage to decline commitments that don't align with your priorities.
Oh, that last one is tough.
It is.
It can feel almost selfish to say no. like you're letting people down
Right.
or missing out on opportunities.
Sure.
But I can see how it ties back to that feeling of control that the farmhand had.
Exactly.
He knew what was important, what he was responsible for, and it allowed him to rest easy.
It's about recognizing that every time we say yes to something that isn't truly important,
Yeah.
we're saying no to something. That is,
Right.
we're saying no to quality time with family or personal growth or even just rest.
You know what? It's almost like a paradox.
Yeah.
Taking responsibility for our choices, for saying no when we need to, can actually lead to greater peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're reclaiming our time and energy and directing it towards what truly matters.
Right.
Just like the farmhand knew he had secured the farm and could therefore sleep soundly. You know, taking ownership of our lives ultimately brings us closer to that sense of calm.
It does. And with that ownership comes a sense of empowerment.
For sure.
It's no longer about passively reacting to the storms of life, but about actively shaping our reality.
Okay, so we've got proactive preparation and focusing on what's important. What's next?
There's more. And this is where it gets interesting. It's about understanding that peace of mind isn't some mystical state we achieve through meditation
Right.
or wishful thinking.
Yeah.
It's the natural consequence of being prepared.
I like that.
It's the reward for laying that solid foundation.
So what does that foundation look like? Give us the blueprints.
Well, it can take many forms. It's highly personal, but let's imagine a few scenarios.
Okay.
It might mean creating a budget and actually sticking to it so
Yeah.
you're not constantly stressed about money.
Right.
It could be nurturing those supportive relationships with friends and family who you can turn to during tough times.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's investing in yourself, developing new skills, gaining knowledge, building confidence so you feel equipped to handle whatever life throws your way.
So it's not just about the external preparations, but also about cultivating that inner strength and resilience.
Exactly.
Recognizing that even with the best laid plans, life is still going to throw us curveballs,
Yes,
and we need to be prepared to handle them.
absolutely. And I think that brings us to the third takeaway, which is all about recognizing that peace of mind isn't just about feeling calm and collected all the time. It's also about having healthy coping mechanisms for when things inevitably get rough.
Okay, I'm hooked. Let's unpack that.
Okay, but first, let's do a quick recap of what we've covered so far.
Right.
We talked about the importance of proactive preparation, like our farmhand meticulously securing the farm before the storm hit. We also delved into the idea of focusing on what's truly important, not just urgent, like the farmhand recognizing which tasks were essential for the farm's survival.
Right.
And now we're about to explore this fascinating concept of coping mechanisms, the tools that can help us navigate those inevitable storms of life.
This is getting good.
It is.
I can't wait to hear what you have to say about coping mechanisms, but I think we'll have to save that for part 2 of this deep dive.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Before we get into coping mechanisms, I want to tie this back to our farmhand. Remember, he wasn't just going through the motions of preparation. He was doing it with a sense of purpose, knowing that each action brought him closer to that peace of mind.
Yeah, it's like each nail he hammered, each shutter he secured
Yeah.
was adding another layer of resilience, not just to the farm, but to his own mental state.
Exactly. And that brings us to those coping mechanisms, the tools we can all develop to weather those inevitable storms. Think of it as building your own personal toolkit.
Okay, so I'm picturing like a metaphorical toolbox filled with
Right.
stress-busting gadgets and gizmos.
Yeah.
What kind of tools are we talking about here?
Well, the first one that comes to mind is mindfulness. It's about training our minds to focus on the present moment.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of getting swept away by worries about the future or regrets about the past.
It's funny you mention that. I've been trying to incorporate more mindfulness into my own life lately.
Oh, really?
And it's amazing how just a few minutes of mindful breathing or meditation can just like shift my whole perspective.
Yeah.
It's like hitting the pause button on that mental chatter
Right.
and just allowing myself to be present.
And it's not about becoming some emotionless robot or anything. It's about developing that inner observer, that quiet space within where you can simply notice your thoughts and feelings without judgment.
You know, it's interesting because when you think about the farmhand,
Yeah.
he must have had moments of worry or doubt too.
No.
But he didn't let those thoughts like consume him.
Right.
He acknowledged them and then he focused on what he could control,
Yeah.
which was preparing the farm to the best of his ability.
That's a perfect example of mindfulness in action.
Really.
Recognizing those thoughts and feelings, but not letting them dictate your actions.
Okay, so mindfulness is tool number 1 in our stress-busting toolkit.
Mm-hmm.
What else can we add?
Another powerful tool is emotional intelligence. It's about understanding our own emotions and those of others,
Okay.
so we can communicate more effectively, build stronger relationships, and navigate challenging situations with more grace.
Emotional intelligence.
hmm
That sounds a bit more complex than just taking a few deep breaths. How do we actually develop that?
It starts with self-awareness. It's about paying attention to your own emotional landscape, noticing how you react to different situations and what triggers certain feelings in you.
So it's like becoming an emotional detective, uncovering those hidden patterns and triggers.
Exactly. And once you have a better understanding of yourself, you can start to develop empathy for others.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that everyone is experiencing their own internal storms.
Right.
And that understanding can lead to more compassionate and effective communication.
Yeah, I love that. It's like that saying, everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind. Always.
Right.
And that kindness, that empathy can be such a powerful antidote to stress and conflict.
It really can. And it also brings us back to that sense of peace of mind. When we approach situations with understanding and compassion,
Yeah.
it's much easier to stay calm and centered, even when things get tough.
Okay, so we've got mindfulness, we've got emotional intelligence.
Mm.
What else can we add to our toolkit?
Let's not forget the importance of finding healthy outlets for stress.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's exercise, spending time in nature, pursuing creative hobbies, or simply connecting with loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
Finding ways to release tension and recharge our batteries is crucial for maintaining our overall well-being.
This one really resonates with me. I'm a big believer in the power of movement and spending time outdoors.
Yeah.
It's amazing how a good run or a walk in the park can just completely shift my energy and my mood.
It's like hitting the reset button on your nervous system.
Totally.
And it doesn't have to be anything strenuous. Even just a few minutes of stretching or gentle movement can make a difference.
Yeah, and it's not just about physical activity either. It's about finding those activities that bring us joy,
Right.
that light us up and make us feel alive.
Exactly.
For some people, it might be painting, writing, playing music. For others, it might be volunteering, spending time with animals, or simply curling up with a good book.
It's about nurturing those parts of ourselves that often get neglected when we're caught up in the busyness of life.
And I think that brings us full circle to our farmhand. He wasn't just preparing for the storm. He was also taking care of himself.
He was.
He was getting enough rest. He was clearly organized and methodical in his approach.
Right.
And he seemed to have a deep understanding of what truly mattered.
He was cultivating that inner peace that allowed him to weather the storm, both literally and figuratively. He was tending to his own farm, so to speak.
So it's not about becoming some like superhuman who can just magically avoid all stress and adversity.
Yeah.
It's about building that solid foundation, equipping ourselves with the tools and strategies
Yes.
to navigate the inevitable storms and remembering to tend to our own well-being along the way.
Beautifully said. And I think that's a perfect place to wrap up this part of our deep dive.
Okay.
When we return, we'll explore how we can take all of this knowledge and actually apply it to our lives. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. We've been having a great conversation about weathering those storms of life, all inspired by that calm and collected farmhand.
Yeah, it really is amazing how such a simple story can offer so much insight, into our own lives.
Right? It is.
Hmm?
And I think you're right. There's like a sense of empowerment that comes from understanding these concepts.
I agree.
We've covered a lot of ground. Proactive preparation, focusing on what's important,
Yeah.
building that foundation of peace of mind, cultivating a calm demeanor, even equipping ourselves with those essential coping mechanisms.
It's a lot.
But I'm curious, if our listener could only choose one thing to focus on this week, what would you suggest?
Oh, that's a good question.
What's the most impactful takeaway from all this?
If I had to pick just one, I'd say start with proactive preparation.
Okay.
It might seem kind of obvious, but so many of us get caught up in reacting to life's demands
Yeah,
that we forget the power of taking control.
I see that.
Yeah.
It's so easy to just feel overwhelmed and go into survival mode.
Exactly.
But you're saying that even shifting to a proactive mindset in small ways can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. Think about it. When we take the time to prepare, whether it's creating a to-do list
Right.
or meal prepping or even just tidying up our workspace, we're sending a powerful message to ourselves.
What's that?
We're saying, I'm in charge of my life. I'm not just going to let things happen to me.
It's like we're taking ownership of our farm
Yeah,
and creating a sense of order in the middle of all the potential chaos.
exactly. And that sense of order, that feeling of being in control, it can really have a ripple effect on every aspect of your life.
Wow.
It reduces stress, it boosts your confidence, and it frees up mental energy to focus on what really matters.
So what would you say to someone who's maybe feeling overwhelmed by the idea of proactive preparation?
Oh, I get that.
Where do they even begin?
Start small. Choose one area of your life where you feel like you're constantly playing catch up. Maybe
Okay.
it's your finances, your health, your work, or even just your physical space.
So pick one battle and focus on winning that.
Exactly. And then ask yourself, what's one small step I can take today to feel more prepared in this area? Maybe it's setting up a budget tracker or scheduling a doctor's appointment or just clearing off your desk.
I like those examples. It's about those small wins that actually
Right.
create like a huge shift.
They do, because those small wins, they build momentum.
Wow.
They create a sense of accomplishment,
Right.
and they reinforce that feeling of being in control.
I could see that.
And as you start to experience those benefits of proactive preparation, that calm, that clarity,
Mm.
it'll naturally spill over into other areas of your life.
It's like a chain reaction of positive change.
Exactly. And before you know it, you'll be facing those metaphorical storms with a sense of calm confidence, just like our farmhand.
Well, this has been a really insightful deep dive.
Yeah.
I think it's a good reminder that, we all have the power to weather those storms with grace and resilience.
Yeah, I agree. It's not about avoiding the storms altogether, because that's just not possible.
Right.
It's about equipping ourselves with the tools and the mindset to navigate them in the best way possible.
And remember, even if you can't literally sleep through every storm,
Yeah.
imagine facing challenges with the farmhand's calm confidence, knowing you've prepared, and trusting your ability to handle whatever comes.
Beautifully said. It's about cultivating that inner peace that allows us to not just survive, but thrive amidst all the chaos of life.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, remember to stay curious, stay prepared, and stay calm.